Hello, we are the Apathetic Life podcast, and a couple of Saint Paul Preparatory Seoul, an international school based in Seocho-gu, Korea, are talking about some of the school culture that they picked up by spending a couple of years here. We can start by Hajin.
Hi. So one thing, we were recently talking, and one thing I mentioned was how we have this really interesting culture where it's really common for students to negotiate grades or like test policies with teachers. Like, I am aware that this is only possible because the American curriculum does allow for things like extra credit, which many curriculums don't. So there is room for some negotiation, but like it's kind of alarming to think about how much of it actually happens here. I remember first thinking this because like before I came here, I was kind of studying for the Korean curriculum and I found it really challenging, and I thought it was so admirable that like people were sticking with this super difficult thing without complaining, and like the mindset was kind of like, whatever, I can't do anything about it, so I'm just gonna get good. And I thought that was really admirable. But then I come here to this school in Korea, and then I see people like talking to teachers like, oh my god, can we like have this extra credit assignment? Like, oh my god, can we carve this test? And then it's kind of like, oh, it's not really what I expected.
Could you compare that to how it was in your British curriculum? Because you were from a British school?
Well, so in England, England is has a kind of curriculum where you literally take a test at the end of the year and that is your grade. Like, extra credit isn't really a thing. And even if you fail all your homework assignments and quizzes during the year, it doesn't impact your grade. It might impact your teacher evaluation, but it doesn't do anything to your letter grade or your number grade. So it wasn't like an option to negotiate.
I think it's pretty interesting that you mentioned that in Korean schools we don't really complain, and if I would say suck it up to the policy, the strict policy. But I think it was a lot different in my school, because the way how it went was most of the grades, your grades are heavily influenced by your midterms and finals, because in Korean school you don't really have any middle assessments or quiz or anything like that. So after students would take their midterms and finals, you would see like a whole line in the corridor, the school corridor, that just led to the teacher's office. And what students would do, they would just complain, or they would counsel the teacher about a certain specific question or a certain problem that they encountered in finals exam. And I think that was a way for them to sort of give their voice out to the teacher. And I think that's similar to in this school but I think the only difference is that whereas in Korean school, teachers don't really care, or teachers don't really teachers don't really change their school policies or class policies. But in this school, in the American-based school, because it's easy for teachers to change their policies, it just happens to look like we are more vocal about.
When you say the kids are like lining up to talk to teachers, do you mean like they're complaining that the test was made unfairly hard, or they're asking for something that might make the test easier, or are they just like, I don't know, like complaining that what they wrote in the test should be correct?
It was definitely about complaining about what they wrote in the FRQ should be correct.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like I see that too, but then the thing is, like, the thing that kind of made me disappointed was like when kids are like, no, but like you can't include this, it's too hard. Like, I hear a lot of whining, and what kind of makes me feel bad when it happens is that you only really see it happen for teachers that they think that kids think would be more prone to that emotional appeal, which I think is not really right.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree with you, but that complaining and whining still exists in Korean schools, because how different are we from each other, right?
Yeah, I know, but like could you ask a teacher not to add something? Like personally go up to them and genuinely thinking that they might consider like giving you an extra 10%.
I'm not really sure about the school policy here, but in Korean school, the teachers just can't easily change their policies.
Which is why.
So
'cause it's
I think that's why, because while students in both school systems are whining constantly, because of the American school system here in Saint Paul, it's just easier for the teachers to change their policies, and that's why students whine a lot, and you can actually see the changes going on.
Yeah, so I feel like that's not very good. I feel like it's harmful.
I think that difference is less of a culture of different students. I think it has to do with our school, Saint Paul Preparatory Seoul, being a international private school, and the fact that people come to our school come here because they're academically driven. And because we are also a private school, while we do have a curriculum to follow, especially AP, they are set by like a higher organization. Some of our regular courses are more flexible. Like, for example, my art history course is a course entirely set up by our art history teacher. And she has plans, of course. It's planned out and it's approved by the school counselors and school board. But it's flexible in a way that she can take some roommates out if she doesn't feel like it's necessarily needed for the class. And that's how we've been sort of running our class, where it's like if something's unnecessary or being too long, we would cut down the content. But when you're in a Korean public school, when entire curriculum meticulously is unified throughout the entire country, or at least in the same city, it's a little harder to be lenient on FRQ grading and stuff like that, because it's not just about you. It has to be the same for every school in this district.
The other thing is that while we are a private school, we're only recognized by America. Like Korea doesn't recognize us. Like some schools are recognized, like SIS, KIS, YISS, the likes. We're technically a Hagwon, we're a cram school. So I think that's less prestige, which means we feel like we have more flexibility.
I think definitely because we're Hagwon, we do that. But I think another possible factor for the whining we hear a lot is because basically the pressure that students have, right? Because we are technically, I think the school really, the students in the school have really high standards. They want to go to at least a top 50 American school, which in their opinion might be a bit low, but in actual standards is actually pretty high. So I think that kind of intense standard and competition within the school just leads students to drive further to complain or make a voice about the policies.
Yeah, I know. Like, I am aware of the ambition and the importance of academic excellence and everything in this school. But then I think the disappointment kind of came from when I was studying it, I thought it was so admirable because that they would just go through it in order to achieve that goal. But then I come here and they have the opportunity to kind of find an easier way. It's easier to beg your teacher for a cup than it is to study for a 95. You know what I mean? So it was kind of disappointing to see that so many people so often I hear oh my god, can you please call this? Can we please get an extra credit assignment? Can you add a test throughout when it clearly wasn't stated in the syllabus? It was kind of disappointing to see, because I admired the ambition because I thought they would fight through it properly for what they want.
But then there's definitely those students who really just try hard and study for that 95%.
I mean, of course, but then why am I hearing so much whining? I feel like that is fewer people than the people who would rather beg the teachers for a cup.
But don't you benefit from those extra credits?
I mean, obviously, but I will not beg my teacher for a cup because, if I get a 70, it's because I didn't freaking study. I'm not gonna beg the teacher to make up for it.
If I may, grade inflation is a problem, especially with schools like ours, because, well, if everyone has an A, then what use is an A really? It's the higher the average grade is, the worse it is for for people who actually try hard because their efforts aren't recognized. So yeah, that's why these extra credit policies can be harmful for the well-achieving students.
Well, I think it's more like how we perceive the letter grade. So in Korean school, the grades you get from the teachers, it's what that decides which university you goes. But from our perspective, we have multiple factors. Like we have extracurricular activities, we have like SAT, AP, and so I think it's just that we tend to think our letter grades as not as serious as the Korean schools does.
Then here's a final question to sort of like wrap up because we've all recognized that extra credit is, I don't want to use the word rampant, but it is prevalent in our school, and there is a bit of whining that might just come with us being students, but also might be more because we are in our unique situation. Do you think you'll ever sort of subsidize and die down? Because in my opinion, because our school is international, it's private, it's full of people who are academically driven. It's not just the students who demand a higher level of grading. It's the parents association has a lot to talk about when things go down bad. And not mentioning any names, but the school's teachers and admin has multiple times said that the reason why certain grade drops or extra credits are being available is because some complaints from a tiger mom sort of level have been coming through, and that they have to curve down. Paul, you have personal experience on the art history class last year being too hard.
It was not too hard. Those kids were just weak.
Yeah, but then the course apparently from our art history teacher, who has really reduced the difficulty from last year, has said that the school has said they intended this course to be a freshman course, but it was being taught at a higher level, so they wanted to dumb it down a little bit, to so to say. But do you ever think this will go away, or do you think there will be a constant conflict between the school students, parents, and the teachers?
Well, I think it's like unavoidable because in Korean school we have, as you previously mentioned, that standardized regulations on how teachers should proceed in units and chapters. But on the other hand, for our school, we don't have those kind of standardized or pre-tested method of teaching or how fast the teacher should go. So the teachers end up kind of experimenting new policies. For example, Chinese class, recently the teacher implemented a new policy to regulate students' grades, and because of that there's a lot of complaints, and cases like that I think makes extra credits inevitable.
The other thing I've noticed is that there's a trend. As the years go by, the extra credit policies actually get more stringent. Like, for example, for all of my classes, it's actually you actually get docked points for going to the bathroom, getting water, even for co-curricular. And recently there's a new attendance policy that has resulted in a lot of complaints. You and I both noticed, Justin. But the thing is, I think what happened before, what we're used to, was a result of COVID. Now that COVID is gone, these grade buffers are slowly going away.
I feel like the new attendance policy, like I personally hate it too, but I feel like that is a lot of extra credit. I mean, if they want to keep that policy, then it's fair, because like, what if you're actually sick? But at the same time, like, I don't think that policy works, because one, it's unfair for people who are missing school because they're actually sick, and number two, it's getting people a bit too much extra credit, because you can drop tests, like, and I take econ and tests of 50%, and it's just like, yeah, I do benefit from it, but then at the same time it seems kind of messed up.
The current attendance system, to give context to people who don't know, is that even if you are sick, any absence, your test will be set as a 0. There will be no makeup. But to compensate for any potential absences or leaves, you will be awarded a drop, so NA, for a test or whatever. It's different per department, but that's the general system. If you have a planned absence, which is you're saying to the school, I'll be leaving, I'll be not coming to the school on this day, 10 or more days before, you will be awarded a makeup quiz. That's the current system. It's different per department, and there is word on that they're reevaluating the system because so much people have raised concerns on grade inflation for drops, or the app being sick thing actually is a public health risk. There's a bunch of things, and they're reviewing it, but that is the current system. Eric, you had the comment?
The previous system was very much abused. Like, kids left just they were fine during lunchtime, and as soon as class starts, they're like, "Oh, teacher, I'm so sick, and I can't take the test," and then they go home and take it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That was annoying. That was really annoying. As someone who came to AWS after taking a blood test, I find that very annoying. But the thing is, like, it's not like a school making kids come to school when they're sick seems kind of messed up.
Well, in short,
Thank you everyone for watching this episode of Apathetic Live Podcast. We were joined by Justin Park, Joshua Pong, Hajin Lee, Paul Han, Benjamin Kwak, and Eric Chung.